Welcome to eYe on Education. I'm Ed Leishus, your host, and we are pleased to begin another school year with this program. And we're starting off with Nashua's new Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jahmal Mosley. Dr. Mosley, welcome to eYe on Education and welcome to Nashua.
Hi, how you doing? It's nice to be here.
We're very fortunate to have gotten you after the search process. And what a lot of people might not know is that you've been in Nashua, boots on the ground, as they say, since March when the school board elected you. And your family's moved here and you're off and running.
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me. It's been a great experience. My family is here. My kids are enrolled in the schools. I have two of my kids are at Fairgrounds Middle School, and my oldest daughter is at South. I've been in the Nashua community for quite some time, looking for a home initially, getting a sense of the district, and now I'm superintendent and looking forward to starting the school year.
For those who haven't followed the newspaper or other media accounts of who are you, who is Jahmal Mosley?
He's very complicated.
Kid from Brockton.
Yep. I'm from Brockton. I was born and raised in Brockton. I graduated from Brockton High. I grew up in the New England area, so I'm very familiar with New Hampshire and the surrounding states. I attended the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. That's my alma mater. Go Minutemen. From there, I attended Wheelock College, and I got my master's degree in middle school and elementary education and in special education, elementary, middle school, and high school. From there, I taught and worked in city schools, so that includes I worked in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I worked in Worcester, pronounced Worcester. And I worked as a special education teacher in those areas. I also worked in rural areas as well. So for instance, I worked in the Middleborough Public Schools. That's right closer to the Cape. Yeah. I worked in the Newton Public Schools as well. And believe it or not, probably, oh goodness, I want to say last year, but goodness, it's been so long now. In 2006, I had an opportunity to work at the high school level in a place called Brattleboro, Vermont. And I worked as a high school assistant principal in Brattleboro, Vermont for about 5 years. And during that time, I was able to raise my family. And please remember, this is before the internet really kind of took off. So Brattleboro is Vermont, but it's more like Western Mass. So during that time, I was able to work full-time and then complete my doctorate in education at the beautiful prestigious University of Massachusetts at Amherst. So I have a wide variety of experiences at the elementary school, the high school, the middle school. When I had hair, Ed, I was a bike counselor. I taught kids how to ride bikes at a place called Camp Lapham in Ashby, Massachusetts. So I've enjoyed my journey in education. I just can't believe it's been close to 20 years.
You're a young man. You started early.
Yeah. Sure.
What drew you to education? Why, when you went on to college, what was it that had you going down that path?
So, you know, it's funny. I've always prided myself in having a sense of passion and knowledge. And the art of teaching means that you have to constantly learn something new. Not only do you have to learn it, but you also have to teach it to different individuals. And so what drove me or connected me to teaching was the art of learning and practice of teaching and more reflection. And when you carry that and you can instill that into students and even your own family members and even in yourself, whether you're a teacher or whether you're a professional athlete, you will be successful. So teaching is about always arriving and really being reflective. And that's something I like to say that I encourage any teacher to continue doing. But more importantly, that's the way that I have conducted myself. I'm always learning, and I love to teach. And as the role of superintendent, I feel it's incumbent on me to teach or to practice on the model the art of actually teaching and taking in feedback and collaboration. So you never stop teaching.
At what point in your career did you decide that you wanted to move from the classroom to the administrative area of education?
So I have been very fortunate to be mentored, and I was working in the Worcester Public Schools, and so I was mentored and approached by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Hutchins, who took me under his wing, showed me how to be an administrator, saw a lot of my potential, and really nurtured and gave me constructive feedback on how I could get better. That in itself was of a motivator for me, and he has given me some lifelong lessons, not only as an administrator, but as a father, as a person, and I'm deeply indebted to Dr. Hutchins. With all that said, you never really leave the classroom. The classroom, in my mind, is the building. The building, in my mind, when you move from assistant superintendent to superintendent, the classroom is the district. And so the question is, and when I think of myself, what type of classrooms in the sense of the district would I like my own children to be a part of? And when I think about education, I think about making that transition. You know, I've always said, when you're an administrator, you're always teaching teachers how to teach, but you're also teaching administrators how to lead as well.
What attracted you to Nashua?
Good question. The diversity within the city. Nashua, you and I were just talking earlier, you know, we were talking about our connections that we had with your sports, the demographics of Nashua. It reminds me of my hometown of Brockton, Massachusetts. It reminds me of how I grew up. I have 3 kids. They're reaching that age where I can raise them in a place where their father has never quite, you know, I was in a small community in Somerset, Massachusetts, or I can give them a different experience in being a part of a city. So conscientiously, I wanted my kids to have the same type of experiences that I had. I wanted them to be a part of a larger community. I wanted them to see and feel and be around different people. With all that said, I think Nashua is on the precipice of doing great things. It was a decision where I think it would be a great fit for myself and for my family. So I'm excited about what Nashua has to offer, and more importantly, being part of the growth that's going on in the city.
A lot of challenges facing the school district, both professionally, fiscally. What's your approach?
Listening, collaboration, and being reflective. And when you're in competition with limited resources and you're trying to decide, you should come up with a plan. And what I have been promoting is strategic planning. And the strategic planning allows us to coordinate and prioritize the needs within the district. And that's what I plan to promote within the next year within the district. It will allow us to prioritize our budget and put into place some action steps to help us achieve the goals that we outlined in the plan.
What do you see as some of the strong assets in the Nashua School District?
So the community, this engagement. There are many teachers that are so dedicated to the kids. That's one of our most valuable resources are the faculty. I know that the mayor has been quite supportive. He's been very supportive of the schools and what we do, and that partnership is only going to grow and thrive as long as I'm here. I'm looking forward to that, and I think in a sense, you know, Nashua's a great place to be and to work. So all of those factors that I just listed are certainly an attraction for anyone.
What would you say would be the district's top 3 needs right now as you look at the big picture?
So some of the initiatives are already in play. So we have first is full day kindergarten, and that is already in play, and that's being implemented tomorrow. So when you implement anything new, you always got to be reflective in the sense that, okay, so the first day of school, everyone will have full day kindergarten, but we might have to tweak the plan a little bit. We might have to maybe perhaps add some staff, or might move some things around to make sure that there's a sense of equity throughout the schools, and that's all part of the process as well. The second piece to this would be around board governance and governing the school board and administrators, roles and responsibilities. Who is in charge of what aspects of the school district, and who is responsible, if we mention budget, for the budget. So those are things that we still need to be reflective on. We need to delineate our roles and responsibilities and ultimately come up with a consensus of how we want to move forward. What we don't want to do is that we don't want 100 people in charge of everything, because then nothing will get done. And then it's complete chaos. And I know that the board and my administrative team is looking forward to those conversations and really bringing clarity and a vision through the strategic plan for the district.
And that could change come November, because it is an election, and there are, I believe, 4 or 5 of the board members whose terms are up. And so you could have a few new faces come January, or you could be working with the same individuals that you're with. Does that present any challenge going forward as far as addressing the governance issue?
Absolutely. We don't know who those members are. I'm assuming there will be new members, because I know that Dr. Maritaki has announced that he's not running, so that will be a whole new member. And honestly, I look forward to the new membership. I think it's a great opportunity for the district to grow. The strategic plan is going to be something that that is going to take more than a year to generate and to implement, and I'm looking forward to that. Whatever new board members that are coming on board, they will have an opportunity to give their feedback and to move the district forward as well, just like we have with the current board members.
One of the issues facing the district is a contract for the teachers. How do you see your role in that?
Well, there's a couple of things that have been going on in the district, and we have to acknowledge that the district, the teachers have not, through no one's fault, but there's a sense of, there's been a hiring freeze that has happened within the city of Nashua, and that has affected teachers' pay. The other piece that's happened is, as a result of that, Nashua teachers' pay has not kept pace with other districts, and so other districts are able to offer more incentives and money to our veteran teachers, and so that has been a problem. There are some, and I said this in some meetings that I've had with teachers, that we want teachers here. We want the Nashua teachers to stay here. Nashua teachers buy houses in Nashua, and when they buy houses in Nashua, they're spending their money in the city. So it's not like we're losing the money. So the question becomes, how do we get to a contract, a multi-year contract with our budget that satisfied all of those concerns that I listed. So we have a lot of work to do. The teachers deserve a contract. I'm not denying that. The question becomes, how do we get to there, and how do we get there given the budgets and given everything that we have in front of us. So we've started those conversations with the union. Adam Marcoux is the president. He's been he's been great to work with. He communicates. We both share a vision of making sure that we can get this done. And so I see my role as the facilitator to help work with the board and work with all the stakeholders to see that this gets done. And then once it gets done, which I'm optimistic it will, making sure that all of the terms and conditions within the new contract are fulfilled.
As we start the new school year, there was, I believe, over 100 teaching vacancies that needed to be filled. Were all those or just about filled, or are they all filled?
They are. I don't have the list in front of me, so I don't. We have been hiring, and so part of the hiring process involves the principals. They hire the candidates, and the paperwork is processed, and then it goes in front of the board. So we have another board meeting coming up that we're going to make sure that those candidates who have applied for the position and are approved by the board and can start working.
A twist that perhaps you didn't see coming in was the principal of North moving on to a new position down in Massachusetts, creating a vacancy at one of the high schools. And I know they had 3 finalists. They all got to meet the community at North. When do you hope to have that filled? Within the next few weeks?
Yes. We had Andrew Haas, Nathan Burns, the internal candidate, and Peter Weaver were the 3 finalists. And so they will be interviewing publicly and then the board will convene with myself and we'll come up with a determination very, very soon. I recognize that parents and teachers are anxious about the leadership components of the school, and I'm sensitive to that.
In addition to that, you're new, your 2 assistants are new. How big of a challenge has it been to get everything coordinated with central staff to make sure that you hit the ground running?
Well, Dr. McKinney and Donna Fitzpatrick are very, very talented. In some ways, they're probably more talented than me. They have hit the ground running. They're great to work with. They're collaborators. The best way to seek better understanding is ask the right questions. And they have been asking the right questions, keeping the lines of communication open. So they have done a phenomenal job thus stepping into the role. Just to kind of recap for the audience, Garth McKinney served as the assistant principal over at Maine Dunstable. Prior to that, he does have principal experience, so he's not new to the district, so he's able to provide some internal perspective, which is really nice to have. And then Donna Fitzpatrick, she was a director of teaching and learning at Montague Regional, and she's able to come in, and I really like that balance, because you have someone from the inside and someone from the outside, so you get different perspectives, and having those different perspectives makes a better result. So they have been very, very good and very, very helpful and moving the district forward, and also opening the lines up of communication. So I appreciate that.
Prior to the start of school, you had an opportunity to have a district-wide meeting with staff and faculty, where, as one person said to me, you bared your soul. You brought them to you and you to them from childhood.
Yeah.
You're a twin.
Yep.
To today.
Yeah.
How do you think that was received? Did you get some good feedback afterwards?
It's funny.
Because that's so unlike we've had in recent superintendents, and we've been through a few.
So I'll explain my approach a little bit. I have a great colleague. His name is John Provost, and he's a superintendent in Northampton, right next to UMass. And I was a finalist for one position before, and I went up to John. I said, John, can you give me any advice to being a superintendent? He said, yeah. I said, because I'm going to have an interview. And I said, can you give me anything? He said, yeah, Jahmal, be yourself. I was like, oh, you mean no, that's it? He said, yeah. So just be yourself. They don't want, in the committees, they don't want an actor. They want Jahmal. So when I was putting this presentation together, I was a little hesitant, because how much of yourself do you share, and how much of yourself do you want to be professional? So there's some things that you have to be conscientious of. So I told the story during the presentation around my friend Curtis O'Connell. He's a guy from Fall River, and he was a custodian, and he encouraged me to show yourself. So when I put together the presentation, I wanted the faculty and everyone, to know who Jahmal was. I wanted them to know that at times, there were times in my life that, being vulnerable, and that's okay. In fact, being vulnerable only makes you stronger. But today, what I wanted to do is that I wanted to show the faculty that I'm a dad. But first, I was a twin. I was a young man. And then I grew up to be the person I am. And more importantly, my philosophy, when I say be each other's keeper, be his brother's keeper, I truly mean that. That's how I grew up. My brother was my keeper. I was my brother's keeper. We still are today. My leadership is all about collaboration. That's the only way I live my life. I never, and it's kind of like, it's funny now, I know the fact, the general public, maybe you can, I never had a bed. Like, it was never my bed. I always shared a bed with my brother. I mean, we slept in the same bed together. When I had like a jacket, or I didn't have my own jacket, it was my brother and I shared our jacket. We shared our clothes. We shared our shoes. So just recently, I think I have my own clothes because I always shared with my brother. So my message was today more about collaboration, but also about Jahmal, but also about my expectation. I shared with the faculty some of the things that would stay the same. You know, we're not going to try a new reading program. We're not going to try a new math program. We're going to use the current programs we have today with fidelity, and then at some point we will evaluate those programs to see if they're still germane given the needs of the kids. The other things that are going to change, they're going to see me more. You know, this is something, our conversation isn't going to be the last. There's going to be many more to come. The faculty are going to see me in the schools, which is going to be a nice way for me to be visible. But the one thing that I want to be clear is I wanted the faculty to walk away with that I wasn't telling them what was going to happen. I wasn't telling them that this is where we're going. I was asking for their support. I was asking them to be a keeper of what we're doing here in Nashua. And I know that we can become Nashua can become the model city for education and for greatness within, in my mind, it certainly has that capacity.
Brings me to a story I heard that when you were up here visiting schools during the interview process, some teachers, and I believe it was bicentennial, basically said to you, well, what are you going to give us that we haven't already seen, and how long are you going to be here? And your answer was, I'm planning and hoping to retire here in Nashua. So I think that sent a message that our viewers, many of whom have a keen interest in education, will be pleased to hear that you're not only looking short term, but you also have some long-term goals.
And I think, you know, putting my words and actions into practice, I would not have had my kids enrolled in the school if that wasn't my intent.
And they're adjusting slowly because they're at that age, middle school, high school. But you said your oldest daughter is playing volleyball at the high school. And she's fortunate to have John Conley, who's been one of the premier volleyball coaches in the state. So that should help there. And the middle school, well, that's a tricky age, no matter if you've been here forever or you've just moved to a community.
Yes, yes. So we are adjusting. They're you know, this is a big step for them. So they're adjusting. But I think they'll be okay.
Beyond the full-time kindergarten, board governance, what other goals have you set, or are you looking at going forward for this first year?
So looking to form a strategic action plan task force. We come together, we'll talk about the needs of the district, we talk about some things that we wanted to do. We want to identify maybe two to three initiatives that we want to focus on, and really write some, I would say, some goals and some action steps, and some target people responsible for those initiatives, so we could plan them in a timely manner. It's for me, it's the obvious. You know, there's been a significant amount of staff turnover, and how do we stop that? And we don't want that investment to leave. You know, there's a question of stability. So my presence here and having my kids here and me here, perhaps that, you know, takes that concern off the table. So there's a great deal of things that are currently out there that we're still exploring. So the work is ongoing. The strategic plan, I like to say, is organic. Mm-hmm. It's never, you know, a document that dies. It's always a document that's living and breathing, and that's reflective of what we do and our value in the Nashua Public Schools.
What is the one thing that's impressed you the most now that, I mean, you had an opportunity during the interview process to see some of the facilities, meet some of the staff, but now since July 1, you've been hitting the ground running. Mm-hmm. What is the one or two things that have stood out that surprised you, that you didn't expect to find?
There is a tremendous amount of community involvement. And, you know, to be honest with you, there are so many outside organizations that still want to get into the schools to help out. There are so many different outside agencies that want to partner with the school to provide some additional resources, collaboration. I mean, again, when you're in a place like a Sharon or a Somerset, there's like one or two. Mm-hmm. Here, there are, you know, countless. You know, there's just the large companies, small companies. So that has been just impressive. You know, it's impressive because I constantly get emails and invitations for partnerships. So that's just been incredible amount of interest in the schools and people wanting to have that partnership. All that said, community involvement in the school is by far something that I continue to be impressed with.
Well, you showed that when out of the clear blue back in May, you got an email from me asking if you would
even know you.
join us at the Nashua Lions Club. You didn't know me from Adam. To join us for the night of our scholarship presentations, and you graciously came and gave her your time, and you know, it made that impression. You weren't even on the job; you were still working in Massachusetts, but you felt it was important enough to be seen here, and you know, the Lions thank you for that.
No problem.
You're off and running. It's going to be a great year, I can tell, and you are engaged, and we want to thank you for taking time out of a busy schedule. These beginning of schools, you really don't have a free moment, but for being here with us here on eYe in Education.
Thank you.
And wish you all the best.
I appreciate it.
Dr. Mosley, welcome to Nashua.
All right. Thank you.
You've been watching eYe in Education. I'm Ed Lecious. Thanks for viewing.